Hello there, this is Angelo from Toolchefs and welcome to this new video for the Stadium series. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to add some flags to our crowds. Of course, a proper stadium has flags, so this is what we want to do. For adding props, in this case flags, we have usually a couple of workflows. So the first one would be to actually add the prop to the variation of your agent type that needs to have that prop. So maybe you have like 20 variations and a couple of them have the prop, a sword, it could be a sword or a flag. Of course, this workflow is a bit more tedious because you need to add that prop to each render layer and then export the variations. Maybe if you mess something up, then you have to go back and keep working like this. So that workflow can work, but it can be again a bit tedious. Another workflow is actually to treat your prop, in this case our flag, as a separate agent type, export the variations for that agent type, and then add that some agents as flags to your shot, which is basically what we're gonna do, and this is the workflow that we're gonna explore today. So here in my scene, I have a couple of meshes for the flag, and they've been already skinned to this joint here. Here, if you see, we have the two meshes here, so the pole and the flag. Now what we can do is we can export these as an agent type. So the files for the agent type. So I'm gonna go here, rig animation exporter. Sorry about this, like I've already actually set it up because I made a test just 2 seconds ago. So anyway, it's already set up correctly. So anyway, I can select the root, I can add the pelvis. I can say this is my skin, so pick selection like that. This is the destination path. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna click export. Yes, now the files have been exported. Okay, so this is great. Now the files for the agent type are already ready, so we can use them. One thing to know is that later we're gonna see agents, the flags inside the viewport. We're gonna just see one side of the flag being with the texture, the other one is gonna just look black. This is because the flag here is just a simple plane. If you want to see both sides, maybe you can add like a thickness to the mesh, but in case also if you want to use the same mesh with a cloth setup, then of course the cloth setup could change a little. So anyway, just to keep that in mind later when we see the black color on one of the sides of the flag, is not important. Our render time is gonna still look okay. It's just in the viewport that is gonna basically how it's gonna look. So before exporting the variation, what I want to do is I want to create a little cloth setup. So in Atoms, what we do for cloth is we take advantage of ncloth in Maya and velum in Houdini. So basically you can build your own setup and cloth setup in the variation scene, export the variations, and with the variations we're going to export the cloth setup as a separate file, and then later we can basically create a cloth cache out of an Atoms cache. Okay, basically we're gonna export the entire workflow, so don't worry if you're missing, if you are not getting completely the full picture. But let's start with just creating the encloth setup. So I'm gonna go under effects, say encloth is gonna be my encloth. This one should be my a passive collider, and then what we can do here is we can create a constraint. So we can say these guys are gonna be constrained to the pole here. So unconstrained point surface, and also to this encloth I've already prepared a preset. Anyway, it's nothing fancy really. Like most parameters are basically the defaults. I think I changed the thickness. I also changed the resistance and compression resistance. I think these are anyway, these are my parameters in case you want to double check them. Okay, great. If I animate just quickly this joint, we'll see some animation. Here, press play. So here it is, and apologize if it's not the greatest of cloth setup, but I'm not really an FXTD. So anyway, it will just work okay for our stadium, for our case here. So this is already now. We can export the variations. So if I open the render setup layer, the render setup tool, let me just remove this one because it was an old mesh. Here we have a render layer with a collection and the two meshes have been attached there. So we can export a variation. So it's going to be a variation builder, agent types. Let's call it my flag, just because we have another, we have a flag agent type within the Atoms agent, so we don't want to overwrite that, and we don't want to have any clashing. So it's going to be data variations. Let's call this one flag variations. Variation. Okay, skeleton file, we just exported that, so it's going to be this one. Skeleton root is that one. Bake textures, we don't want to enable the simple material conversion here, because the material that that basically I just assigned, actually I haven't assigned it, actually good point here. We have the upper shade here. I've prepared a material which you know, has also a couple of AI user data vector for driving the color of the flag. This is actually the material that we use for the flag of the Atoms agents. We're not going to change the color in you know, at the render time with in this example, but anyway, it's basically, yeah, I just attached to the flag that that material. So I'm not gonna enable simple material conversion because the material is already an unknown material. So I'm gonna want to make the texture, so I'm gonna click run. And now this should be finishing quickly. It's done. If we go on a file explorer, we'll find the flag variations. And you know that the cloth setup was successfully exported when you find that the file has actually a size that is more than 1 kilobyte or 0 kilobyte anyway. Because anyway, yeah, so this is basically the file that contains the enclosed setup. Okay, so that's why you want to see the size of the file to be higher than you know, just bigger than just 1 kilobyte. Okay, so this is all for the flag. Now we can go on our shot, and we can you know, start adding flags. Okay, now we're back in our crowd scene. As you can see, I've hidden some of the agent groups, just actually left these three visible. We're gonna add the flags just on these three agent groups, but once you know the workflow, basically it's pretty straightforward to add the flags on the other agent groups. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna register the flag as an agent type. So I'm gonna call it my flag. Which is the same name that I used when I exported the variations. So if I go here, data config flag, and then skin there, we don't have a characterization or state machine, so we're gonna leave this empty for the flag. Then I want to merge the variations, the ones that we exported previously for the flag, like this. And then another thing before we start editing our scene, if we go in the main stadium state machine, we see there is this swing flag state, which has also two clips. We don't have the same state in the child stadium state machine or in the woman stadium state machine, and this is because for the Atoms agents we thought that the man would be the only one swinging the flags. If you're thinking about you know, retargeting this clip on another agent type, that would be possible, but there would be just a problem that the actual joint that's being animated for the flag, which is an extra joint, is not being retargeted because extra joints are not actually part of the main hierarchy, and we don't retarget those joints at the moment with the animation retargeting. So this is just so that you're aware in case you're thinking about retargeting these clips on other agent types. Okay, so let's remember this ID, which is 18. Now we can go back to this agent group. I'm going to just use the man for this video, so I'm just gonna clear all the overrides here. Also for the variations, I want to randomize them again for this agent group here. I'm gonna say man there on this side. I'm gonna click run, and now we just have the man variations here. Also another thing that I'm gonna do is here I'm gonna change the distribution of the mesh scatter, so it's gonna be a face center. And now what we can do is maybe we can go in the agent layout tool, we can activate it, then having this agent group selected and having this option on, I'm gonna say I want to use and select just 5% of agents. So these ones, for this shot, I would like not to have them too close to each other. Also maybe this one could be that guy over there. I don't like this one, so maybe that one. And this one. So these basically are going to be the agents are going to be using the are going to be swinging the flags. So let me go here. I'm going to change the state first of all. So it's going to be 18, which is the swing flag state. So if we go close and press play, we see that agent is swinging a flag, also that one, and there were a few others. Okay, so this is great, and now we can add the flag. So to do that, as we said earlier, you could have gone through the variation route, so the flags would be in the variations. Otherwise, we can go and use the new agent type that we created for the flag, and then use it and create it on top of these other agents here. So to do that, we're gonna create a new agent group, and then we're gonna attach a sync module. So the sync module, what it does is basically you can provide. You're gonna need to say which parent agent group. You will have to set the parent agent group for this agent group. And then what this module will do is like it will parent agents using the agent type, whatever agent type here you provide. So okay, it's going to be my flag. You can also provide two joint names. So it's going to be one joint that is going to be belonging to the skeleton of this agent type here. So the flag, and then another joint that would be belonging to the parent agent, basically to the skeleton of the parent agent. So we basically need to know which joint we want to constrain. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna say in my flag, I'm gonna right click and say draw joint names. That is the joint name. We cannot copy paste that. So to actually copy paste that, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna say I'm gonna open the agent types joint tool. I'm gonna select my flag, select the joint here. I'm gonna press Ctrl C to copy that, and then you can paste it here. So on the main, actually, there's a joint which has the same name, and this is because when I built the scene for the flag, actually I actually set the name for that joint in the flag with the same name, basically. And then finally here, what we want to do is we want to set the display type to skin, and of course the parent agent group. Okay, so as you can see here, the agents that are swinging have the swinging state. If we press play, they're actually swinging the flags, which is great. There's no cloth sim anyway at the moment. We're gonna add that later. But also we see a lot of unnecessary flags here, and this is because at the moment we need to set something else up before we can actually just have the flags on those agents with the swinging state. So let me basically to fix that, we're gonna remove the agent type here. Then we're gonna open the agent randomizer. Then we're gonna select my flag agent type. We're gonna move it on the right side, and then we're gonna click run. So as you can see here now, the flags are actually being attached just on those agents. And if you see here, we have overrides for the my flag and with some group IDs here. So what's happened here is that the agent randomizer, what it does is basically when it finds an agent group with a sync module, and there's no selection, so there's no agent selected on this agent group, it will fall back to the selection of the parent agent group. So basically these agents that were selected. If we go here and we check carefully, we can see that so I think the group ID, we're gonna show the group ID like this. So the group ID of the flags is the same as the of the parent agents, basically, as you can see. And basically that's why having overrides with the same IDs will actually work. So let me hide that. So basically that's how we can set the flags just on the agents with the swinging state. If you want, for instance, replace maybe one or two flags with other flags, or maybe with another prop, you can select those and then use the, either use the override dialog for the agent type, or you can use the agent randomizer again. Because again, if you have a selection on this agent group with the sync module, the agent randomizer is going to use that selection. But if you don't, it's going to go and use the selection from the parent agent group. If you want to randomize again on for all like the flag or another prop using the selection of the parent agent, always make sure to clear the selection on the agent group with the sync module. This basically will help. This is basically a good practice if you are planning to do that. Okay, so that's that. If we press play now, we have our flags. Once again, there's no cloth sim at the moment. We're gonna add it later. Now, basically, we would like to add the flags also on the agent group, which is like on top, like here on this section here. If we are going to use the variations, we will see the flags showing here already. of course, if you had the variations enabled, because at the moment this one is just having it's just displaying the skin mode. But in this case, what we're gonna do is basically, because the flags are other agents from another agent group, what we need to do is we really need to make some other changes. We're gonna need to create a new agent group. So let me do that, and we're gonna use again the group copy module. And then basically here the setup will be a bit different to what we saw earlier, but basically what you can do is, like, you can say I want to copy the flag, so that would be the agent group 22. Here of course we can provide the parent agent group again, so we can say maybe 20, we can say, yeah, 22. And then what you can do here is you can provide also a reference agent group. So basically what's happening here is that here with the group copy, we're trying to copy flags that are being created by the sync module, okay? So because the sync module doesn't work like the other layouts, like the mesh scatter for the agent group that we have created here, what we need to do is basically, in order to create the flags on these agents, which are actually cloning agents from this other agent group, you need to provide this agent group as a reference agent group, because at the moment the flags are just being created here. So actually, when you clone agents from an agent group which has the sync module, there's no randomization happening. Actually, the agents are actually being recreated in the same position of these of the flags here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to provide that agent group here, which is agent group 4. So if you can find it there. And as you can see here, we have a error here, which is due to the fact that Atom is not finding the flags to be copied. And this is basically because the order in which Atom is evaluating the agent groups is not correct, okay? So we see here basically that this agent group is actually depending from two agents. So it means that basically one of these two agents, two agent groups. So it means that basically this agent group is being evaluated before one of these two, okay? So to fix this, what we can do is we'll need to change the order. We need to help Atoms to understand the order in which the agent groups will need to be evaluated. So having this agent group, so the first agent group with the sync module being, having as parent the first agent group here so this agent group is the one with all the agents here, so the mans here. Then we could have this other agent group not being parented to this agent group with the man, but actually parented to the flags. Again, parenting just means that it's just helping the order. It's just telling Atoms in which order it needs to evaluate the agent groups. Okay, so we can say here agent group 22, and then on this agent group here we can say agent group 4. And then here, of course, we need also to display the skin. And now we see the agents, being created. So if I press play now, those agents are actually, so the flags are actually being created on this agent group here as well. So one thing that we can check, because here at the moment where Atom is doing some magic for us, is just cloning agents up here with the swing state, with the swing animation, not the swing state, because there's no actually. This agent group here doesn't really have a state machine. It's just, as you remember, it's just cloning the animation, the pose and the metadata and stuff. So if you want to see which agents here, even before adding the flag, so let's say if the flags were not there, we could select these guys here. We could say here, maybe I want to select, the agents with the state 18, because although the state metadata doesn't make sense for them, they are still, this metadata is still being copied, so we could find them out pretty quickly. Also, another thing that you can do is, like, you can say for these agent groups, I want to see the group clone agent ID. So basically, this one is basically, if we go close, it will tell you basically the agent that is copying from the other, so the group ID of the agent that is copying from this other agent group. So if we display once again here the group ID, that one is copying the agent with group ID 12, which is that one. And another thing is, like, basically you could find actually agents with cloning the same agent. So in fact, you see there we have two agents with the clone agent ID set to 12, actually 3. So 4 there, actually 4, so that's great. So basically, if we go in here and we say, sorry, that one, and we say, I want to search using the clone, and that is 12, we said. So we see those are the agents that are cloning the agent with ID 12. And of course, this is because with the group copy, Atoms is picking randomly an agent to clone here. So you could have like maybe Atoms could be actually cloning could be cloning more than one agent, but could be actually not cloning other agents from this agent group with the swing state, okay? With the swing animation, sorry. Okay, so let me clear the selection for now. Let's go back to here. So let me show again here the flag. So if we press play, that is all good. Another thing to know, because it's pretty important, when you use the group copy on an agent group that has the sync module, I mean the 22, so this one with the original flags, Atoms doesn't really copy the pose like it's doing normally with the agent groups, the standard agent groups. What it does is actually does the same behavior that the sync module does. So what's happening here is actually these flags are being constrained to the joins of these other agents. And this is because with the sync module, we have another behavior that is more suitable for this kind of situation. So that's why basically you will always see the flags being actually properly animated and parented to the parent joint of the parent agent. Okay, so that's great. Finally, we're gonna do the same for that one. So we're just gonna do it a bit faster so we can see what's going on. So we can say create a new agent group. So we're gonna create another group copy. We're gonna say I want to copy again the agent group 22, and my reference agent group is 12. 12. Sorry, let me move back that one. I don't want to change that one. So 12, and then here is all good. I need just to change the this to skin. So again, here we're not setting the parent agent group and it's working already. So we've been lucky there, but again, it's always good practice to set the parent agent group properly. So for instance, for that guy, for the agent group with all the flags, it's gonna be, again, we set 12. So that we're gonna set 12, but for 12, it's not gonna be 1 anymore, but it should be the 22, which is the agent group with the flags, okay? So now it's still working anyway. So it's all good. We can press play and it's all working there. So that's great. What we can do now is we can finally start making, adding the cloth here. So we're at this stage, and now let's add the cloth simulation. Okay, so now for the cloth, we need to set the variations. So if you remember before, when we exported the variations, we checked the cloth setup. So the cloth can only be simulated on the variation meshes. So for doing that, we're gonna select that one, this one, and this one. We're gonna say Atoms variation randomizer. We're gonna pick the my flag, which is here. Run. So the variations have been set successfully. If we go here, we have the variations. Okay, so once we have done this, what we can do is we can finally create the cloth cache for these flags. So how Atoms works, if you remember correctly, before we set up the cloth setup on the flag variation. Atoms, what it does basically, it doesn't run the cloth simulation live in your crowd scene, but what it does is actually runs it in a post process and then exports a cloth cache that you can then use and display with the Atoms proxy, okay, and then render. So first of all, so I'm gonna save this scene, then I'm gonna go here and I'm going to export a cache. So we're gonna select all these agent groups here. We're gonna export it here in this cache, which is okay. And then we're gonna provide an output path. So here, say data cache. We're gonna call this one, yeah, that's fine. We're gonna call this one flag cache. And then 500 frames is a bit too much. We just need to, we're just caring about displaying 10 frames. sorry, we're just gonna export 10 frames just because we don't need to render the entire sequence, just to show you. And then also I'm gonna replace this with an Atoms proxy. So I'm gonna export. So the cache has been exported, and in the scene here we have this new proxy. So I'm just gonna save it, increment and save. And what we're gonna do is, after we saved, I'm gonna go in the Atoms, and then under Atoms menu, and then I'm gonna open the CFX simulation exporter, which is the tool that actually export the cloth scene for us. So we're gonna disable for here. Then we're gonna provide a path for the cloth cache. So we're gonna say cloth cache there, and we're gonna call this one cloth cache, of course. So that's our destination path. Then here you have to provide a cache path, which is the cache that we just exported. So we're gonna be cache, flag cache, and the frame without the padding. And then here you need to provide the variations. It could be from the scene or from file. I'm gonna just select from file, and I'm gonna select the variations that we exported for the flags. In this case, it's gonna work because here we have just the cloth theme on the flags. But if you have like a setup with multiple agents, so in your cache maybe you have even the man or other agents with a cloth setup, you need to make sure that that variation JSON that you're selected actually contains all the variations for all the agents. Because of course otherwise Atom will not be able to create the the cloth setup for any agent that doesn't have a variation inside this variation JSON. Okay, so once you're done with this, I'm gonna click run. This process is gonna take a while because what Atoms will do is it's gonna create a new scene with all the meshes and for the flags, and all the meshes that also are gonna be needed for for collisions and stuff. Then it's gonna run the cloth sim and export the Atoms cloth cache. And then what we're gonna do after this process is finished is we're gonna come back here and we're gonna use that cloth cache with the Atoms proxy that we have in our scene. So I'm gonna click run now. Okay, so the process now is completed. What the tool basically will leave you the scene with all the flags in this case. So they're gonna be actually. So as you can see here, we have one of the flags. We should of course press play, but basically here we have the enclosed scene. So what Atoms did, it rebuilt the scene for you with all the flags and then exported the cloth scene. As we said, within the cloth cache. Okay, so anyway, I'm not gonna play this one here again, just gonna stop it. So if you, for instance, export it once and then you see there's something that doesn't is not correct, you can sorry, not that one, you can always go in the CFX simulation exporter, and instead of say build scene and export, you can just build it and then export at a second stage. All of these, the workflow and how this tool works is actually covered in another video if you want to check that. So yeah, I'll just leave it to that. So for now, let's reopen the other scene that we created. Okay, and now we can select the proxy, and we can say, so the variations are gonna be picked from the scene, so we're happy with that. And then we're gonna say Atoms cloth cache file path. We're gonna go here and we're gonna select data, cloth cache. I'm gonna pick the first file, the one without the padding. And then I'm gonna show you the variations here. Just give it a second while it refreshes all the variations. So we have there the flags, and if we press play, you see that, anyway, just for those 10 frames, we have that the cloth sim. So we have the cloth sim on those flags and all the others as well. So we can go maybe on a frame like this one, maybe close up a little, and then we can render with Arnold. Sorry, it was rendering on the other window, but anyway, this is the result. So you see here we have some the cloth sim on the flags. So this is the workflow for adding flags to your stadiums. If you have more agent groups, and of course you want to clone the flags and also on the other agent groups, basically the ones that I've hidden in this scene, you can do that pretty easily. You see, it's basically just a matter of creating a new agent group with the group copy module. Otherwise, you can always go and use the, add the flags to the variations and then use that the other workflow, which is a bit more straightforward, but it's not as flexible as the workflow that we just seen in this video. So I hope this video was helpful and that you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.